Hi, everybody. Honest John here. You know, a crisis can bring out the best in people. And we've seen that with the Trump virus crisis. Doctors and nurses and healthcare providers who every day risk their lives taking care of their patients without the proper protection that they need. And even as they see their co-workers get sick and even die, they still show up every day out of a sense of duty. There's no other word for them but heroes. And so are our grocery store workers and other essential workers, bus drivers, sanitation workers, all out there taking big risks. Many of them just making minimum wage and placing themselves at risk to keep us supplied with food and the goods that we need. We've seen people even though their income has been really gone down because of the lockdown, but they're holding fundraisers for others who are struggling more than they are. And making donations to others, even though that they have very little money coming in. We've seen people volunteering at food banks and delivering groceries to people who are too vulnerable to risk going out. But it's also brought out the very worst in people too. Scam artists who have tried to rip off hospitals and state governments by pretending that they can procure supplies and equipment that are desperately needed when they don't have them, just trying to get money. And of course, these people are enabled by the lack of leadership coming from the White House. And then there are the suppliers who are jacking up the prices of the equipment that nurses and doctors need to protect themselves, profiteering off the misery and death of others. And again, they're enabled by Trump's lack of leadership. And then there are the scumbag conspiracy theorists who are calling the virus a hoax, which implies that our healthcare workers who are risking their lives on the front lines of this fight are actually engaged in some kind of deception of the public. This is just the ultimate in sliminess. And then there are the right-wing terrorists who are taking their guns and going out on the streets trying to intimidate and threaten others because they don't have the courage to simply protest unarmed. They should have their guns taken away from them permanently. I even saw a bunch of them standing in front of a hospital accusing the doctors and nurses who were going in to try to save lives of being actors. I mean, they're just the lowest scum on earth, armed scum. You might have noticed that most of these people are Trump fans. Of course they are, because he's the chief scumbag. He hasn't just failed to lead, he has refused to. He has done the opposite of leadership. He could have used his power as president to protect our healthcare workers. Instead, he's used it to increase their danger. He could have used that power to force the owners of meatpacking plants to ensure that the workers had safe conditions. Instead, he sent the workers into those plants to get sick and die. He could have used the powers of his presidency to ramp up testing so that the country could open up safely. Instead, he used his powers as the presidency to limit testing. which will mean that as we open up, the most people possible will die. He even sent out people to protest his own guidelines for opening up the country. Years from now, when the history books are written, Trump will be right there with Stalin, Hitler, Pol Pot, and other murderous dictators.